Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Peace and Plenty in 20. I'm your host, Jeannine, a midlife mom coach. And today I am back with Michele for part two of our discussion from last week about midlife, making shifts and changes, and deciding where to focus your energy and tuning out the noise. So, something we touched on last time that Michele and I decided was a very important component to pick up again today was this whole idea of comparison. We tend to, just as human beings, look from left to right instead of keeping our eyes on our own paper. We tend to, instead of focus on the things that we are succeeding at or doing well at, we tend to look around and see what others are doing and start to feel a little badly about ourselves because we're not doing it. So today, Michele and I are going to talk all about that comparison trap, that idea of compare and despair. And it's also amplified by social media. It's amplified by when we are not really in tune or focused on our own why, which Michele referenced last week. So those are all things that we want to remember to tune out and tune in, the tuning out of the social media and the other noise, and we want to tune into our why, our goals, our focus. So let's dive right in. So Michele, I know that you as a leader and an educator working with teachers, now working with a team underneath you, I know that you see a lot of this among midlife women. So I would love to hear from you in terms of how do you guide your colleagues, your teammates to avoid this comparison trap?
hmm I am so excited, first of all, for being back. I love that we just impromptu did a little series about this because I feel like that first conversation sparked so many other really important topics. And this is one that I feel like resonates with so many people in so many areas of their life, right? So,
Mhm.
comparison of maybe someone's personal success, comparison of maybe where someone is in life personally compared to your own, the way your body looks compared to someone else, the way someone is experiencing, a new chapter in their life compared to your own. There's so many facets of our life where this could potentially creep in, right? It's not just kind of like one specific area. So it's such an important topic. And I think one that recycles itself no matter what phase we are, right? Even in our midlife, I would venture to say I think at this age, we have a little bit more insight, and I think it gets a little bit easier as long as we've worked on it for a few
Mhm.
of the decades prior. I feel like that tends to be the trends, just even professionally working with teachers or professionally working with other psychologists or leaders on my team. I think there is a correlation midlife from some of our wisdom and some of our experience. I think it's, it does get better. So for anyone
Mhm.
who's not in their 50s, it gets a little bit easier. Um, some really important things I think to consider in terms of that comparison game, right? I think it's always important, like you just said, to focus on your own baseline, where you've come from, right? Where your starting point is, and what growth or what shifts have you made since that baseline, right? So, not looking to the left, not looking to the right, and really just looking at like, where have I come personally, right? And it's when you look at it on paper, or when you give that grace to, say, a friend or a relative, it's a lot easier for us to say, well, look at where you've come from, or look at some of the obstacles that you had to overcome and to get where you are. So I feel like sometimes it's a lot easier for us to look at it from like an outside lens. It's really hard for us to do that from kind of like a personal, like inside lens. Um, so that's the first thing, kind of consider your own baseline. Another thing I think is really important to surround yourself with people that don't play that comparison game, right? That people that don't, you know, point that out. It's really important to surround yourself with people who celebrate your wins, who just cheer for you, who support you where they can. It's really, really important for so many other, obviously, different areas in our lives, but it's really important to surround yourself by those people. The people that are at your workplace that are, you know, not cheering for you. And I think this is really important in terms of even leadership. Um, the team that I work with right now, my top three priorities is to support women at any age when they want this opportunity to grow. My other really important piece is to obviously be true to my own business and make sure that I'm working my own business, not looking right to the left or right. And
Yep.
the third really important piece is where I hold this dear and I protect it as best as I can, is to make sure the community that we set up, because we work as a really strong community unit of women, to make sure that that's a protected place where people feel supported, they don't feel teared down, they don't feel judged, because that's where that comparison, game kind of seeps in. So that piece I kind of really, really hold dear, and I make sure that I try to support that as best I can. Um, a third thing that I feel like is really critical, and I actually now I think this is the piece I wanted to touch upon last week, is
Mhm.
gratitude.
Mhm.
I I'm so it's so important to have gratitude practice in your life for a myriad of reasons, but I try to practice it every day and even throughout the day.
Mhm.
A lot of the times we'll often suggest, okay, do it like first thing in the morning, do it before you go to bed at night. It's something that it's a tool you can bring with you everywhere. It's a tool you can bring throughout your day, just to take a minute and just stop and think and be like, what's my blessing right now, or what am I grateful for? When you think about gratitude, or not to go into faith-based approaches, but when you have prayer or when you have gratitude,
Mhm.
it's it's not mutually exclusive with, judging or comparing someone, or even envy, right? They're not synonymous with trying to practice gratitude. So being able to count your blessings, be able to recognize the small wins, being able to recognize the things that you do have in your life, whether that's your personal talents, whether it's kindness that you display to someone. It doesn't have to be tangible things, but really just focusing on your own gratitude and the positive things in your life. And the more you can do that, the difficult times, or the times where you start to kind of slip and compare, and why am I going through this? Why is it me? Why am I experiencing this? That gets easier to be able to shift that, or to be able to dispel some of that when you have gratitude practice. So I feel like that's a really, really key important, piece, I feel, in terms of, that comparison game.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think we've always been on the same page with that. Um, and just to echo what you said, when you're in that place of being thankful and grateful, I would ask everyone to experiment with what I'm about to say, and tell me I'm wrong. When you're in that place of gratitude, you can't feel anything else.
Right.
It's
Mm-hmm.
to your point, you're not, you're, when you're feeling truly grateful, you just can't feel that envy at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I love what you said. Listen, I think it's very important to, a lot of our planners and journals will have, start with like fill in your gratitude at the beginning of the day. I was coaching a group of women last night, and we talked about listing, 3 wins at the end of the day. I think those are amazing practices. But to your point, I also would encourage people to try this tool as all throughout the day, any time of day. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just like any it's just like making a physical change too, in terms of like working out. It's like creating muscle memory, so that all that becomes your self-talk, that becomes your patterning, that becomes your habit, as opposed to look what she's doing, look what they have, woe is me. It really helps keep you out of that victim mentality. And the more you can practice that, it becomes habitual, right? It becomes kind of just your default. And to
Mhm.
your point also, one other thing you said, like it can be so simple. So this morning I woke up early. Drove Dave to the airport and it was super early, and it was going to take us an hour to get there, take me an hour to get back. And he was like, I really appreciate you taking me. So even though I was like tired, I was able to like just in that experience, I was able to be like, number one, it's so nice that he said it and appreciated that I was doing it. Number two, the fact that I'm able to. I have a car, I can drive.
Oh,
And then dropping him off, driving home up the turnpike, the sun was rising behind Manhattan. It was the most beautiful view. I'm like, how lucky am I to live like next to the greatest city in the world? Like just
mhm.
all these little things. The
Yep,
traffic didn't matter suddenly. The fact that I'm tired didn't matter suddenly. So I really, really I want to thank you for bringing up that point because I think you're so right that if people can start this gratitude practice, it is the best and easiest way to stay out of that comparison game.
absolutely. And gratitude doesn't necessarily negate that challenges are going to happen, right? But they are easier. And studies show time and time again about the habitual nature of it, right? And it really does transform some of your thinking and your positive thinking. It also creates resilience. I mean, there's a ton of studies out there about just creating and building resilience during
Mhm.
the difficult times. So I think some of the misconceptions sometimes it's like, well, it has this Pollyanna effect, or you're forcing people to not recognize their
Right.
hardships. It's actually not the case at all. It's recognizing those, but it helps to get through those things when you have a gratitude mindset and when you have that to kind of fall back on. There's always something that we can be grateful for. There's always a little aspect of something that we can be grateful for, even through some of the most difficult times. So I know I digressed a little bit off the comparison piece, but it works
No,
in the
I
comparison theory as well.
I think that's so, like I said, I think that's a really big integral key part of staying out of that comparison, right?
Yeah.
Oops.
Another aspect I just wanted to bring to point when I work with either a woman on my team or if I'm working with a private client and we're doing, counseling, um, sometimes the practice of just doing it at the beginning or the end of the day almost falls into a little bit too much of a habitual piece. And sometimes the feedback is, well, I'm going to name three things, and I'm grateful for the sun, I'm grateful for my health, and I'm grateful for my family. So that's why it's really important to practice it throughout the day
Mhm.
and try to find varied prompts. So sometimes what I'll even do with my team or with a private client, I'll even text them a prompt, something that feels different. So one thing that I was able to do today that I don't get
Right.
to do every day, one person that has made me smile today, two people in my life that I'm so grateful to have crossed paths with, like change the prompt so it
Yes.
doesn't necessarily always feel mundane. I feel like that's a really, really important piece because sometimes you could fall into that just, you know, just that habitual responses and they don't necessarily they lack a little bit of that quality. I feel like that quality piece and taking the time to stop and really think about the gratitude and how it varies is really important. So just
I
something.
love that idea. And I don't know if you have a list. If not, I'd love to, like, we could brainstorm a list.
Yeah, great.
I think that would be a great tool for everyone to have. Like, especially if you're like, because listen, if you're waking up and you're having a bad day, yeah, it's going to be hard. If it's not already a habit and not a practice, it's going to be difficult. And side note, as I'm saying that, that's why I think it is important to have it as a practice so that when the really, really difficult times hit or when compare and despair is coming in hard, that you don't have to like triage it. You've already got it set up and you have that
Great.
foundation to carry you through. So I think that's really important. Um, Now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I was saying we could have a list of different prompts so that,
I would love to do that. That would
right? I think that'd be so cool. Um, and by having these different prompts, is basically the same thing as what I'm going to say, but I agree with you about like, because again, in one of my planners, it was like, list your three, what are you grateful for? And it just becomes very mundane, my health, my family. Whereas if you make it very specific, like very small and very
Yeah.
specific, like literally this hot cup of coffee right now with my favorite creamer, or literally,
Yep.
the sun shining through my window on this spot, like make it that specific. Um, that's gonna change your whole practice.
Yeah, I think if you are someone who practices gratitude just by varying your prompts or varying some of those things, it'll elevate your practice a little bit. I think that's sometimes a drawback with I love doing journals, but sometimes when the prompts are repetitive, I think
Hmm.
sometimes it just we lack a little bit of that like finding, really going out of our way to find new ways to be grateful. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and let's definitely make that list because I also think for busy midlife moms, that's what we need is like we need to like outsource to someone else, right? Like so to for us to be able to provide that, I use other people's tools all the time because I just need, I we need our own help. We need our own supports. We need our own tools and other people to quote unquote like take care of us, right?
Absolutely. Lean on that positive support system. That was point number 2, right? Surround yourself with those people who help to lift you and help to support you and help to spark your creativity, right? That'll keep that comparison game out of reach as well.
Absolutely. Um, Anything else that you can think of that in terms of whether it's like personally, physically, or if it's, you know, um, career wise or, doing things, outside of the home. And what I'm getting at is, are there other things that you can think of that you talk to women about when they're really struggling with like feeling down on themselves, thinking that they're not doing enough, thinking that they're not being enough. And that's just a general comparison to like women in general, right? Like as a woman, I should be doing X, Y, and Z. Or if I'm in this role, I should be doing, you know, ABC. Any other last tips that you share with, again, your friends, colleagues, teammates?
Yeah, I think just allowing yourself again a little bit of grace, recognizing some of your talents. I think you had mentioned it right in the beginning. One of the first things I do is really go back to your why. Go back to why this is important. Go back to why you loved doing this activity in the first place, right? Whether it's your professional career, even as a mom, right? The days that
Yeah.
those days of being a mom that get difficult, go back to your why. Go back to how grateful I am to have be able, to be able to experience being a mother in life. Like that often will pull me out of
Yeah,
some of
I love
those.
that.
So I think when you go back to your source, why did I love teaching in the first place? Why did I want to help people with their mental health? Why did I want to inspire other women to, work with me and promote self-confidence, even, through a hair company? You can apply that to so many different, ways, even personal relationships. Why was our friendship so connected? And
Mhm.
let's get back to that place. We're both pulled in so many directions. We're moms, we're professionals, we're this, we're that. Why did we connect? And let's find that again. So always going back to, I feel like your why is so important. And when you're in the thick of it, and when the noise is there, and when the pace is fast, and when it's moving faster than you can keep up with mentally, it's that gets muddled. That gets really hard to kind of go back to that. So I feel like that's a huge piece that I feel like I almost will always tell a client or tell someone who's struggling with something, go back to your why. So
I love that. Absolutely. And I love how you referenced it even to like being a mom. And I was just thinking too, even if it is like um a health journey or a spiritual journey or something that you want to do, there was an intention behind why you started that. And it's hard sometimes when we get caught up with talking to others, social media, and seeing these images of what we think it's supposed to look like and be like, but that's not what it's about. Come back to your intention, your why, and that's what's gonna keep you grounded along with that gratitude.
Yeah, your why, your baseline, how far you've come, surrounding yourself with people that support your journey, and daily gratitude. Yeah, I feel like that's my four-part, there's so many other components, but I feel like that's such a key foundation in terms of, when I think about that.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for sharing that. I think this week I'm going to ask all of you, our watchers and listeners, to choose um, one of those to try out for yourself, whether you're going to come back to your why on a daily basis, whether you want to try out the gratitude and different types of gratitude. And Michelle and I will chat offline and come up with some prompts that I will get out to all of you guys. So that is your experiment this week. And
I
again,
would hear that
go ahead.
feedback. That would be great.
Yeah, yeah. I would love for you guys to experiment with these. Let us know, right, Michelle? Like it's always great to hear feedback for what you tried, especially if you tried something and you're like, wow, this is what worked for me. Don't keep it
Hmm.
to yourself. That's why we're doing this, right? We want to share with each other. Midlife, has enough struggles of its own that we should all just be kind of lifting each other up. So if you try one of these and it works, make sure you share it with us. Okay. In the show notes, sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
No, that's what I said. I would love to hear that. Love to hear that feedback. And I would even challenge people, try it until the next podcast. Try it for 7 days at least. Give it kind of like a really good try.
Exactly. Spend the week with that one experiment, that one intention, whichever it is that you want to try. And then if you need further help with that, all my info is in the show description. You also can book a free strategy call with me, um, which is a gift. Trust me, you can walk away. I mean, that's how I got started in my own coaching journey, walking away with like, wow, okay, I like have a like I have an idea now of where I want to go and what I want to do. Um, if you're interested in hearing more about Michelle's work, interested in partnering with her in any of her businesses, I'm going to also include her information. And make sure you subscribe to my channel, Peace and Plenty in 20, because I am here every Wednesday at noon with a new episode for you, trying to just survive, not just survive, I take that back, not just survive midlife, but thrive in midlife. I know it's a phrase that's used over and over, but that's how I feel. I don't think
Thumbs
anybody
up.
should, right? I don't think anybody should be struggling their way through this. And if you are, that's okay too, but use the resources, use everything you have, because you're worth it and you deserve it. And it doesn't have to feel as challenging as you might feel.
Well said. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you for coming, everybody, and we'll see y'all real soon. Peace.